What if the reason that you struggle to set standards or have boundaries in relationships has nothing to do with the other person, but has everything to do with what you think you deserve? What if your inability to have standards and boundaries has to do with your own belief systems about what you believe about yourself and what you deserve to receive, as well as what you believe that other people will see you as if you did set standards or have boundaries? These things are directly tied to what we think we deserve. They're directly tied to our own mindset. And I'm going to talk about that today. My name is Crystal Hoban. I'm a love and relationship coach, and I help you become secure and fully expressed in who you are and connected to your voice and to yourself so that you can create beautiful relationships that are secure, healthy, loving, and where you feel deeply seen and understood. Let's get into it. So many of us are so afraid of having standards or boundaries or just being able to verbalize those things. And it's so interesting to me because I also used to feel the same way, where I really struggled to have boundaries in relationships. I struggled to have standards for myself. And specifically when it came to standards that I had for myself and the people that I wanted to be surrounded by, I felt like having standards was this idea that people are going to see me as me thinking I'm better than somebody else, right? If I have certain standards or I have certain expectations of, the type of relationships I want to be in or who I'll put time and energy into, that it would be seen as this kind of like, well, she must think she's better than other people, or I would be seen as like high maintenance. And that was like a negative thing, right? That was a negative thing to be seen by, especially when you grew up lower or middle class. And, people who thought that way, right, are people who, kind of carry themselves as pretentious or better than others. And so there was directly tied this kind of belief system that I had where it was like, if I have standards or I have boundaries with people, then I think I'm better than people. And people are just going to see me as pretentious, stuck up, nose in the air, right? All these different things. And the truth is, is that the reason I didn't set boundaries or allow myself to have them is because of those certain beliefs. And what I want you to think about, right, as I'm talking about this topic is, what are the beliefs that you have that are blocking you from feeling like you're allowed to have standards, or having standards is a bad thing, right? Or it's going to be make you be seen a certain way, right? Because all of us have certain beliefs around different things, and that either affects what we do or what we don't do. And for me, the idea of having standards and expectations in my relationships meant that I was going to be seen as thinking I was better than other people. And I didn't think that I was better than other people. So I didn't deserve to have standards. It's so funny when I say this out loud, I'm like thinking to myself and like listening to myself, and I'm like, does that even make sense? And the truth is that to me and the version of me that exists at this point in time, no. But it did make sense to me, past version of me. And what I want to acknowledge is that you cannot have standards or boundaries in your relationships if you don't believe that you deserve them. So it's directly tied to your belief system. Not only what you believe it means, right? But also what you believe about yourself and what you deserve. And I think this is so interesting because I talk so much about this. And this is a lot of what I do in my program, Fully Expressed and Unavailable for Less. It's really about helping people to recognize like what standards are important to you, what boundaries are important to you, what is keeping you from doing those things, what is keeping you from actually taking the step and doing it. And, one of the other things too that I used to do a lot, and I think has got me really thinking, is that overthinking. Kind of funny how that led right into that. But like this idea of like overthinking, right? Like we think that if we overthink this thing enough, then we'll figure it out, or it will resolve, or maybe it will show that we care enough, right? And we spend so much time overthinking things, trying to figure out what to do, what not to do, all right. And a lot of the time, we never actually take action on those things. We just spend all of that time overthinking. And so this is exactly what I avoid when it comes to doing some of the deeper boundary and standard work. There's an actual protocol and process on how that looks and how to be able to do that so that you're not stuck in this overthinking hamster wheel, can't get off, right? Can't make a movement forward, but can't get off the wheel of overthinking. And I lived there for a long time in my life. And so I know exactly what it's like to live on there. It's exhausting, it's fatiguing. And, you know, it takes up so much space and time, right? Instead of moments where you could be enjoying your dinner or moments where you could be enjoying the birds and being outside or enjoying being with your kids or your dog, right? You're kind of in your head wrestling with yourself, right? And a lot of the times that wrestling that we have with ourselves doesn't really change by overthinking about it, right? What actually needs to change it is action. But most of the time when we're overthinking it in that way, because there's a part of us that doesn't believe something, or a belief is getting in the way of us being able to take that action or do that thing, right? And, you know, when it comes to having boundaries and standards, I just think that also as a woman, we are just taught that we're supposed to be humble, right? We're supposed to just take what's given to us. We're supposed to just be accepting of all. That's like what a good person is, right? They're accepting of all things. And I think you can be accepting of other people and you can be accepting of who they are, and yet you can still be careful with your energy. You can still be careful with how you spend your time. You could still be someone who really watches how they go about things and why they do that, right? And being very intentional about where you put your energy, your focus, and your time. You can still be all of those things and be accepting of other people. Those are not mutually exclusive. And I think for a long time, I thought that they were, right? Like you couldn't do one without the other. But with healing, what I'm coming to learn is that there is just so much more of a openness that comes with healing, a reality that there are many different ways to see something. Many different things can be true at the same time. You get to decide what those things are. You get to decide what are the things that you believe to be true, as well as something else being true, right? We get to decide those things. And that then affects the way that we take action or don't take action, what we believe we deserve or what we don't believe we deserve. And so when it comes to setting boundaries and standards, I just think that we're talking very similarly about very similar things. And it really comes down to, what do you think you deserve? And if you're not deserving, then why? Right? So many of us think that we have to be able to do this thing or create this thing or reach this, threshold before we're deserving enough to be able to have something met, like have a need met, to ask for something, to want something. And I think that when you're constantly in this place of, I need to heal more, I need to do more work, I need to constantly be moving, I need to get to this place first, right? I mean, the only person that's holding you back is you. And I think that that's probably been the hardest thing I've ever had to like acknowledge about my own experience when it came to healing and being able to start setting boundaries and standards and being confident and trusting myself. I had to recognize and I had to acknowledge like how I was getting in my own way, and how I am the one that's making the choices to believe certain things or think certain things. We can tell ourselves that we've been told this our whole life, or this is what everybody else around us believes or thinks, right? But we don't have to believe or think those things. That's a choice. So, yet we still have control over those things. We just don't always recognize that or embody the control or power that we have over those things. And just because we're not in agreement with everybody else, right, doesn't mean that we think that their way is wrong. It's just maybe not right for us. maybe not what we want for us, right? And that's okay too. Both can be right at the same time and exist at the same time. And I just think it's so important to recognize, though, that like when it comes to boundaries and standards, you know, you're only going to be able to put in place what you feel like you deserve to receive. And you're only going to be able to recognize what you deserve to receive by being able to give those things to yourself first, right? Because when you're able to give yourself what it is that you want and what you need, then you stop expecting other people to do that for you. And when you stop expecting other people to do that for you, then you become free. You become able to make decisions not based off of neediness or needing something from someone else, right? But based off of enjoyment, based off of happiness, based off of like what you want your life to be, not the survival space. And I think it's so important to recognize that you can live either way. It's your choice, right? You can live in a way where you think that other people need to meet your needs for you to be happy. And you will probably continue to have relationships where you are putting up with things that you don't actually want, where you are accepting less than what you deserve, right? Or you can learn to give yourself the things that you are expecting other people to give you. And then relationships don't become this like needed thing as much as they become something that adds to your life. Because you don't need them to feel good and happy and whole. You have figured that out on your own. And when you have figured that out on your own, then it's so much easier to walk away. It's so much easier to not accept less than what you deserve. It's so much easier to just choose things that bring you joy and happiness and let go of the things that don't. Choose the things that add to your life, not the things that take away, right? But if you're in a deficit where you have not learned to give those things to yourself and you're still expecting other people to give them to you, right? Then you're always going to be stuck in that pattern or in that cycle of accepting less than what you deserve because you need to get those things met. But when you're able to meet those own things yourself, that's when you stop accepting less than what you deserve in relationships. That's when you stop talking yourself out of a bad situation. That's when you stop ignoring your gut. That's when you start trusting yourself and you stop doubting what you know to be true and what you're feeling and thinking as you're interacting with certain people. That's when everything changes. Finding a partner who chooses you starts with you finding yourself and choosing yourself. Finding relationships that are secure starts with you becoming secure within yourself, because then naturally everything else happens as well. So if this resonates with you and you're sick of yourself, you're sick of accepting less than what you deserve, you're sick of ignoring your gut, you're sick of accepting anything less than what brings you happiness and joy, then that is exactly what my program teaches you and what it's for. Because if you're ready to finally feel peace and happy and freedom and be able to walk away from anything that takes that away from you, then that's when Fully Expressed and Unavailable for Less is for you. You can find out more information at crystalclearmystic.com or the link in my bio.